Okay, I think we'll get started. Okay, I think we'll get started with the meeting. Attention, attention, we'll get started. If you don't have a handout, there's handouts back in the last table on my left. It's the complete survey there, and that's going to be our main topic today. Before we get to that, we have a few club agenda items to cover. Our next meeting is going to be March 21st, and that's a Monday. So usually we try and have them on Wednesday, but because of scheduling this year, we can't schedule ahead. We can only schedule 90 days in advance. We're left to whatever times and rooms are available. So the next meeting will be on a Monday, March 21st, here at the Baltic Room, and it'll be on Windows 10, and we'll cover my experiences when I upgraded from Windows 7, some of the issues I ran into, and then things that I like about Windows 10, and then we can talk about should you update your PC or not. So that'll be an interesting topic there. And we also have our MaxSig meetings, our monthly MaxSig meetings, and that meeting is on this Friday, February 19th, and they usually set their agenda right before the meeting. So if you do have an iPad or an iPhone or just interested in Macs in general, I recommend that you start attending those meetings also because they're very informative. They go over new items and things like that in there. Our officers, Jim Holman is our president, and I don't see Jim here right now. Linda Brown, she was just up here. She's our vice president. Paul Ebert is our membership secretary, and I don't see him. So if you do have anything for Paul, you can just drop it off with me up front here, and I'll get it to Paul there. Our treasurer and also the leader of our MaxSig is Mike Griffin. Stan Miller is our secretary. Andrew is our communication coordinator. Andrew's back there. My name is Tom Kreuzer. I'm a director at large. Members old and new, if you do want to pay your dues, normally see Paul there. Since Paul's in there, drop him off with me up front here. And a reminder, if you are changing your email, whether you're retiring from 3M or changing internet providers or you've gotten too much spam with an old email, if you're changing your emails, make sure and notify us because that's the way we keep in touch. Also, I mentioned here we're considering adding a PayPal link to our renewal notices. And so when you get your notice to renew, if you don't want to write a check, you'll be able, if you have a PayPal account, you'll be able to click the link that's in the renewal notice, and then you'll be able to pay your dues that way and not write out a check or bring in cash. Is that something of interest to people here, or raise a hand? How many people would? Okay, so we've got a few people there. Obviously, you can still send in the check or cash, whatever you want there, but we're just trying to kind of make some of the things a little easier for people there. If you do have suggestions for topics, you can email your topics to myself or any of the board members or talk to us. And if you'd like to volunteer to present on any hardware or software that you use at your home or even here at work, we're always looking for that. And if you don't want to present, you can. We have our monthly eBytes newsletter, and you're welcome to write. Could be as simple as a sentence or two, or multiple pages, and we'll publish it in our monthly newsletter there. Our website it has our past meeting and slides. So if you miss a meeting or want to check on something that we did in the past, you can go out there. Also, if we were able to record it, we put that also out there. We have our deals section, I mentioned our monthly eBytes newsletter is out there, and that's the URL, and the URL is also in all the notices and that too, and it's listed on the back here of the survey too. Any club questions that anyone has before we get to the main topic? Okay. Our main topic today is going to be the results from the survey, and this survey was just completed here in January of 2016, and well, we'll talk about some of the trends that we see in the hardware and software, because we do ask a lot of questions, and we use this information to both inform our members and also use it in a number of the presentations about what's happening and what our members have and are interested in. It also lets you consider if you should upgrade or not, because you can kind of get a feel for what some of the other members have in terms of how old their machines are or how much memory or different things like that. You can get a feeling for that too. We also survey on the meeting topics, and so we ask your opinion there, and so we've got a lot there. This meeting is going to be very informal, so you can ask a question at any time as we're going through the different topics, or if something pops into your head, just ask a question. And so now we'll go on to viewing the survey results. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to go into Microsoft Word here. So this is a document that I took the results from the survey and I compile it in Microsoft Word. And I'm in Microsoft Word. If you're not familiar with this, this is a nice little feature in Word where you can view and you can change the layout. And so you can get a nice little layout to view your document where you're not having to scroll through pages or go up or down or things like that. This makes for a nice little view there. As I mentioned, the survey, we completed it in January of 2016, and I wanted to thank everybody. Our club has roughly 140 members, and we received the survey back from 65 members, which is a very good response there. The survey, if you're interested, is done using Google Docs. You can create a spreadsheet, and then it'll create a form, and it'll collect all the information and makes it very easy to get the numbers and do these things here. As I mentioned in here, comments and opinions expressed in this document, I'm the one who interprets the statistics and the numbers, so I don't claim that they reflect the opinions of the 3M or the club or the board of directors. It's strictly my interpretation of the numbers there. And I mentioned in here that we had roughly 50% of the people that responded, which is very good there. And certainly the people that responded are kind of like yourselves, most of the people that are attending the meetings and stuff like that. When we see a chart and you see a percent after a number, that means that it's obviously the percentage of the respondents. Since we had 65 respondents, it's a percentage of the respondents. Where you don't see a number, that's the actual number of people who responded. So things like printers, we ask what kind of printer you have. Well, frequently people have more than one printer, so you'll see numbers there, not percentages of it. So that's something to keep in mind as you look at some of these charts here. We've done a similar survey for the last 14 years, which is quite a long time, and I usually end up comparing some of the numbers, so whether we're trending one direction or another, and in some cases I go back to when we first started this survey, comparing it to the numbers now, and some of them are startling how fast we moved into some of this new technology and these new things, and how some of the trends are there. The past surveys, if you are interested, we do have a few of them out on our website. I believe you can go back to 2008 out on our website. If you are interested in seeing any of the surveys previous to that, just send myself a note and I can send you the surveys from those years. So it is kind of interesting to see what's happened there. Okay, the first question we have on the survey is just computer expertise, and we're just trying to see kind of where people are within the club, and we ask what kind of expertise, and over the years we kind of like Lake Wobegon, we're all above average, so that's good there. But you can see even like I mentioned in here, frequently in the PCs, you may be very experienced in one package or in one area, and then less experienced in another package or another area. So nobody's a real expert on every aspect of it, so I think we all can learn, and we all can benefit from the experience of other people within the club there. Computers at home. We average 3.9 computers, with most of us having one or two. And this is in addition to tablets, smartphones, and the like there. So we certainly do have more. Whereas if we go back to that first survey in 2003, 47% of us had one PC. And a lot of that's certainly due to the cost. Cost of the machines have gone down, and we're using them for more and more things there. Users in our home. So I ask how many users do we have on there, and our average was 2.58 users in the home. And in general, over the years, this continues to kind of go down for our club, and that I attribute to, in general, we're getting older and older, and the kids have left the house, so the numbers tend to go down there. Smartphones, you can see we've increased from 61% 2 years ago with a smartphone to now we have 85% of the people within the club have a smartphone. And we average 1.89 phones for the people with phones. I mention in here that given the cost, the data plans and device costs, with them dropping so much, that really this number should be close to 100%, because as I've mentioned before, there's plans like Republic Wireless. That starts out at $25 a month for their 1 gigabyte plan. If you don't use a gigabyte, you get rebates. My bill on average from Republic works out to $13 a month. So it's again, there's no reason not to have a smartphone and have that capability with you all the time. And then we asked what kind of smartphones do people have, the operating systems, and the three main vendors out there for operating system are Windows, Android, and Apple. And Windows, there's a very small percentage, 5% of people. Android is 50%, and Apple is 45%. So we have almost that 50-50 split between the Android and Apple there. In 2015, Apple has had a 34% market share. So, you know, some people will say, well, almost everybody has an Apple iPhone, and that's really not true. The percent is still relatively low. In the U.S., I mean, it's up there, but it's not that high. Also, if you go worldwide, 14%. Apple only has 14% of the market worldwide. Tablets in the home, we've increased from 60% to 75% in the last couple of years, so more and more people are getting tablets. Again, kind of similar to the smartphones, I'd expect this number to be almost 100%, because nowadays you can start getting tablets starting at $30. And $30, you can use your tablet to check your email, to do a wide variety of things just around the house. So there's kind of no reason not to have a tablet either there in these days and age. And there are smaller tablets, bigger tablets, and obviously the prices go up, but you can get a nice sized tablet for a little over $100. Again, if it's not an Apple, if you're looking to buy an Apple, that's a little more expensive, but there's certainly Android tablets out there. If you look at Amazon has a tablet, their tablet is $40 for their tablet. So tablet prices have really come down quite a bit there. And again, you can use them all throughout the house, kitchen, garage, everywhere you can take it there. And the people that do have tablets, we're averaging a tablet and a half for the houses that do have tablets. And on the tablets, the operating system most used, Windows, 12% of the people with tablets have a Windows tablet, Android 35%, Apple 53%. So we do have more people with Apple tablets than we have with iPhones or Apple phones there. It's a little more than half, and again, Apples are great if you've got the money, but if you don't have the money, the Androids start at about $30, and again, there's kind of no reason not to have some of that. Okay. Next question or group of questions that we asked was, when you use your computer, tablet, or phone at home, what are you doing with it? And we had a number of categories, and you can see the things like email and search and news and weather and Facebook. And so we asked, how much time are you spending in these various categories? And this gives some interesting numbers because it lets us see trends on how much we're actually using the devices there. The average this year that people are using their various devices was almost 22 hours a week, which is quite a large number when you think about it. And this is up about 4 hours from last year. So each year we continue to use these devices more, whether they're the smartphones, the tablets, or your PC itself. As a contrast, in 2003, when we did the first survey, we averaged 9.25 hours a week. So you can see over the years we've almost little over doubled how much time we spend on the machines there. And we continue to use these devices more and more, and it continues to go up. So these are the breakouts of where people were spending their time. The number one category where people were spending time is email, an average of 4.34 hours per week on email. Searching or reference, we got 2.67. Finances, whether it's checking investments, banking, budgets, taxes, is a good portion. News and weather, Facebook, watching videos, working with your photographs, both still and video, ebooks, other hobbies that you may have that involve either blogs or checking things out on websites there. Games came in rather low there. Travel and vacation planning, because, you know, we all kind of start and stop those things, doesn't average a whole lot there. Work, a few people doing work on their machines there. Genealogy, and then maintaining other websites, and that's where we get our total of 21 hours a week that people are spending there. And I added a few new categories this year. In the past, we didn't specifically break out search or news or ebooks, so this is relatively new. And this is a little calculation I've done over the years where we take the price that you pay for kind of an entry-level PC and divide it by the total number of hours that you're spending and how long the machine on average lasts, and it'll give you, I call it the machine cost per hour that machine is costing you based on the usage that you're doing that machine. And our current figure for that works out to, we take 21.6 weeks times 52 weeks, and the machine's lasting usually about 5 years. The machine cost is 5 cents an hour. Whereas when we started this in 2003, because the machines cost more and because we were using the machines less, our cost per hour was like 30 cents an hour. So you're really getting your money's worth nowadays because we're using them more and they're less expensive and some other nice things in there. Okay. This next area was the percent of time that you spend on your tablet, smartphone, or desktop. So over the years, because of the smartphones and the tablets, we're now splitting our time between these different devices. Overall, the percentage that people spend on their smartphone is 20% on their smartphone, 14% on the tablet, and 66% on their computer. And that computer can be a desktop or it could be a laptop. For this question, we aren't differentiating that. But so we're spending over the years, certainly as more people have gotten smartphones and more people have gotten tablets, we're spending more and more time on these devices and less time on our desktop or laptop device. And in the last 2 years, as an example, the desktop laptop has gone down from 81% to the 66%. With the tablets and the smartphones getting more powerful, bigger screens, you can start to do lots more on these devices also. So it's kind of nice to have the option to use some of these other devices. This next chart it shows each of the responses. So we had 65 people respond, and this chart has the points for all 65 responses, how much time people were spending on the various devices. And so we can see that 13 people, or 20% of our people, are spending 100% of their time on their desktop, and that would be what ends up being these 13 responses over here. 100% is on there in some cases because they may not have a smartphone or a tablet, or that's just what they do. On the reverse side of this, if we go to the far left here, we have 7 people who spent 20% of their time on the desktop. And then they're spending majority of the time on their smartphone, or some are spending a good portion of their time on their tablet, but they're only spending 20% of their time on the desktop itself. And so this is that trend again where we're using our desktops and laptops less and less because you're able to do a lot more on the smartphones and on the tablets. The cost of these devices has gone down considerably. So, like I was mentioning earlier with the tablets, there's no reason not to have tablets. There's no reason not to have smartphones with the costs and things continuing to go down there. So we're doing more and more of that. As an example, I show this is the same chart that I did 2 years ago. And you can see that the area in blue here is the desktop or laptop usage, and this is quite a bit bigger than where we currently stand in our usage and what's going on. And at the time, we weren't doing as much on the smartphones and weren't doing as much on the tablets, but this just continues to grow and grow each year there. Okay, any questions on that or comments? It's like I say, they're just kind of nice trends there, and if you don't have a smartphone or a tablet, I highly recommend, go out and get it and start using it, because there's a lot of things that you can do on them. Okay, the next survey questions pertain to the computer, the main computer that people are using at home. And so these next one where we ask about how old it is, memory, hard disk space, things like that, they're about the main computer that people are using at home. And the first thing we ask is a brand of computer, and the highest percentage is HP, and with 37%. And this is the 6th year in a row that that HP has beaten out Dell. And Dell used to be the leader in the survey from 2003 to 2008, but since that time, HP has been the main one there. It's also interesting to note that in 2003, we had 13 different brands of computers, and now we're getting down. I mean, certainly the main players here are HP and Dell and Apple, and then everybody else is at 11% or less there. Apples do continue to grow, so they currently are 20% of the people that responded. So that's an interesting trend there. We also ask if the machines are laptops, and 45% of the machines are laptops, and over time I would expect this number continues to get larger and larger. It used to be that laptops, you were paying a premium for a laptop over a desktop, so you might have to pay almost 50% more to get the same power in a laptop than what you could get in a desktop. Well, the cost of laptops have come down considerably, and the power within those is also gone up to the point where the majority of machines sold within the United States now are laptops. They aren't desktops anymore. Okay, then we ask, how old is your machine in years? Is it less than a year old, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 10 years old? And 46% of the PCs are 2 years or newer, and this number is higher than we've had in the past. The average age of the machines is 3.1 years, which is up a little bit from last year. And I attribute some of that to with smartphones and tablets now being more mainstream, we kind of forget about having to update our desktop or our laptop, because again, as you spend more time on your tablets and on your smartphones, how fast your machine is or that isn't as important as it used to be. And I recommend in here, if you've got a machine that's 4 years or older, it really is getting to be time to replace it there. Especially our next presentation will be on Windows 10. And if you want to run Windows 10, you're going to need a faster machine, a faster CPU, and those machines now start at a little over $200, with laptops not that much more. So rather than upgrade or continue to use an older machine, I think it's kind of funny that people will not complain too much if they have a phone plan and they're buying a new phone every 2 years or at most 3 years. But if they, and they may be spending the equivalent of $500, $600 for that phone, it's funny that they neglect to upgrade the home PC and get new stuff that's going to be even much cheaper than what their smartphone would be there. Okay. Okay, we ask total system memory on these machines, and this is kind of the boring part, so we'll kind of move fast here. We average 8 gigabytes on the machine. It's interesting that we broke the 2 gigabyte line in 2010 and the 1 gigabyte in 2009, so it's kind of exponentially going up there. First year that we did it, we averaged 256K, so we've come a long way since those first machines there. And if you are going to load Windows 10 and doing work, you really should have a machine with at least 6 gigabytes, and you want to have maybe 8 to 12 if you're going to be doing digital video or image editing there. Hard disk space, same type of deal. It just continues to grow year after year, and it's interesting. Well, as soon as I say that, I see what my comment was here. This is the first year that it's actually gone down, and it went down just a little bit to a little over to an average of 2 terabytes, 2.63 gigabytes there, or 2.63 terabytes. And I attribute it going down, and it'll probably continue to go down because of cloud storage. You're able to store the stuff up on the cloud in a number of sites. You can get free storage, and if you need even larger amounts of data, it's relatively inexpensive to buy more data up on the cloud and store your stuff up there. And so the need to have these large devices in your house and to back up and things like that is becoming less and less with the cloud there. And I think we may have a topic, or we've talked about it in a board meeting, of possibly having cloud storage as a topic coming up maybe in 3 months, 2-3 months or so. So we'll probably talk a little bit more about that, because cloud storage can both be for your backup needs, but also where you store your stuff. So whether it's photographs, videos, documents, you have all these options now to do it. And if you store it up on the cloud, the advantage is I can access that stuff from my smartphone, from my tablet, from my desktop, and I'm not having to transfer files. And if something happens to my desktop, it's backed up, so I don't lose anything, and I have it accessible from all these different places there. And as I mentioned, hard drive days are numbered. My PC right up here, it uses static memory. It's not even a hard drive. So there is no moving, spinning hard drive in there. Even though we'll call it a hard drive in here, it's the equivalent of a thumb drive or static memory there. Much safer, uses less electricity, and since it doesn't have any spinning components, the failure rates are a lot less than a spinning hard drive. But even there, you don't need a lot of memory here when you're storing stuff up in the cloud somewhere. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
I just wondering what it is. So just a short time ago, I read that when
RAM. Yeah. So when we talked about the memory over here, this is RAM memory, and that's system memory, whereas this is hard disk space, and RAM memory is needed when your machine is running and What's that? Yes, the more applications you have going and the more data in those applications, then your RAM has to be larger. Operating systems. The two types of memory would be the memory for when the system is running itself, and then the other is when it's storing stuff. So when your PC is right, and the hard disk.
Kind of a memory, or that's the storage?
That's the storage, and so that's the storage when your machine is turned off, or when you take a picture and want to put it someplace, you have to have hard disk space for it. When you want to view it, then you have a program that has to run on your machine, and that program requires memory to bring it in, and your video devices need memory to show that up on the screen, and so that's the RAM there. And so even like in a phone like this, you're going to have, there's the equivalent of RAM, there's CPUs in here, and there's storage, kind of hard disk storage that you have here. But that storage is becoming less and less needed if you're accessing things off of the cloud, because your pictures are stored up at the cloud, your music is stored up at the cloud. Yes, external hard drives. People in the past might use a DVD also for storage to read stuff in or write stuff out. So, yeah. Things just keep changing there, and the size of the files and how much you need certainly changes over time. Okay? Yes?
With the solid-state memory that are in the newer computers, how much storage space do you get with those different?
They vary. The entry-level machines may have 64 gigabyte or stuff like that on there, which again, depending on what you're doing, may be very sufficient. If you intended to put if you wanted to put a lot of photographs locally on your machine, you can use up that memory in no time there. If you intend to put those photographs up on, let's say, a Google Photos or up on a cloud storage somewhere, then it's not using any of the memory down here. So that's where, as more and more things move to the cloud, you need less and less storage in your local device. And the disadvantage of the local device, again, is if I have it stored on my laptop here, I don't have direct access when I use my phone. Whereas I have a Word document or that, and I store it up on Google Docs, I can go into it from my phone here, I can go into it from my laptop, I can go into it from my tablet, all accessing that same document, updating it, viewing it. If I want to print it, I can print it, and I'm not having to take out a thumb drive and move things around. I'm not having to put it on a CD or anything like that. I can share it. I can share it amongst anyone else in the club here very easily. So that's the advantages of some of these things, and so the local storage is becoming less and less needed there. Yes.
How was it built with Best Buy and it's got a terabyte?
Yeah, you can. Some of the laptops and some of the machines will come with very large drives there, built out of the static, essentially the thumb drive type static memory there. They get expensive, and again, how much a person needs really depends on what you're trying to do And if you're trying to store, if you want to make things as accessible as possible, you're not going to be storing stuff locally on your single device there. Okay? Operating system. We covered this a little bit with some of the hardware where we had 25 or 20% had Apple. We have 75% with Windows. We have one person with Linux. No people have the Chrome. And this I found interesting. We had a couple of people where it was unknown what they were running. So Windows continues to be our larger number. Apple is going up, and that's up 5% from last year. And then again, I say here, I'm surprised that a couple of people don't know what they have, because it does make a difference which of these operating systems you have. If you're purchasing applications or trying to do things, it's nice to know that. And so then, in addition to the operating system, we asked which version they had. And so for Windows, at the time that the survey was done here, we had 16 people on Windows 10, 9 on Windows 8, 23 on Windows 7, and one person still on Vista, and nobody on XP, which is good to see. The Windows 7, again, we'll be covering the Windows 10 next month. But if you've got a machine that has enough horsepower, it's probably a good idea. And the features and functions that you gain moving to Windows 10, you'll probably want to upgrade to that. Or if not, upgrade the PC, possibly even buying a new PC there. Well, okay, and then for the Apple, kind of a similar type of thing. You have the different versions of the Apple operating system, and 10.11, 10.10, and 10.9, and they've got a little 9 people, 3 people, and 1 person there. Okay, printers. We've got a few different printers, and over the years this has changed too. We used to have maybe about 10 or 15 different brands of printers. Now you don't see as many. Certainly the most popular here is the HP printer, and then we have Epson is second with 20 people. This isn't a percent again, because people can have more than one printer. This is just a raw number of how many people have some of these different printers. But HP is currently the most popular there, and actually since we started the survey 14 years ago, HP continues to be, every year has been the most popular printer there. Now, it doesn't say that it's the best printer, and again, if you start talking about quality of color prints and things like that, most people will, and most reviews will admit that the Epson printers produce better color quality there. The HP tends to work because they sell their printers relatively cheap, and most of the printers are sold at a loss. So they lose money on selling the printers. They make the money on selling the ink. So they're basically giving away the printers to get you to buy the ink there and that. But in general, the HPs are very reliable printers, will last a long time, and they continue to be the market leader there, or market share leader there. I mention in here, some people will say, well, I want a good color printer and that, and what I found is most people really don't need a good color printer. If you're looking to print photographs or anything like that, you're much better going through a service, whether it's having it printed at Walgreens or Target or, well, Jim is saying no, but there are services. There's better services. There's cheap. Well, they're better than home. They're better than home.
No, they're not.
A cheap printer compared to a cheap printer.
Epson makes great, low-priced, photo printers. Excellent results.
And as Jim is saying there, if you do have camera questions or photograph or anything there, Jim's an excellent resource. He loves to talk printers there. So printers, cameras, and he's a very good resource there.
My observation on home printing is that you get good quality, that's fine, but the cost of paper and ink is the major cost, and that's what makes it cheaper to go to Walgreens or Sam's.
And I guess kind of to defend Jim there, it's these trade-offs. You can get, like Jim mentioned, you can get good quality, and you can actually keep the cost down quite a bit. Years ago, I think we had Linda Brown give a demonstration of she had a high-end Epson printer, and then what she did is she retrofitted it for bottled ink. And so it was not using cartridges, it was using bottled ink. Bottled ink, if you're, that's what's used to refill the cartridges and stuff like that, is, I don't know what it is, a 20th of the cost of an ink cartridge kind of a thing. And if you're doing large quantities, because she does some professional type stuff, it can be much cheaper there. And the supplies for the paper and stuff like that, again, you can find good paper and stuff like that online, but if you're just doing a little bit of printing here and there, your costs are going to be fairly high, and frequently, the printer itself, I know people that'll print it out, and, the minute you take it out, somebody touches it and it smudges and, things like that. So personally, for low-end printing, I recommend any of these other places, and if at all possible, don't print at all. In today's day and age, it's much easier to share the device, share the pictures and stuff like that out on the cloud with other people and let them view and let them see the highest quality on their device rather than in a hard copy there. But yeah, there's certainly lots of options there, and I never recommend not having a printer, because there's always stuff that you want to print out. But the number of color prints that I do in a year is relatively low. I do a lot more black and white printing, but even there, I just don't print out that much. Okay. Internet connections, we're kind of split between cable and DSL. So we have some of the people doing 3G or 4G off their phone. You can tether your phones, you can do stuff. There's also an option for, in Minneapolis, city wireless. So there's, I think, one there. Costs have come down, certainly. And now you've got CenturyLink upping their speeds and being a little more competitive, so things will probably be changing a little bit there. Home networks, we just had a session a couple months ago on home networks, and this is the type of modem that you have for your wireless connection. And as we talked about then, if you have some of these older standards, you'll want to upgrade your modem to get a faster wireless network, but also a more secure wireless network. And over the years, this has increased. In 2003, we had 20% of the people had a home network. Now we're up to 80% there, so it certainly increases. And with tablets and smartphones and all the different devices that connect, you really do need that home network there. Yes. No, we didn't ask that. because there is a difference in the modems and what they support. You also have a number of other options, and if you're leasing your modem from Comcast or from CenturyLink, chances are you've got the equivalent of a $30 modem in there. It's a very cheap modem that doesn't support fast speed, that has limited security, because they're trying to get by as cheap as possible to make money off of you. If you want a better modem, you have to buy your own modem and your own wireless router, and you're best to buy your own modem and wireless router, and that way you have complete control over your home network there. And as an example, some of the AC routers, the more modern routers, will cost you up to $200 for the router because it supports multiple channels. They have multiple antennas, and so they can get speeds. And if you're looking to do your internet TV and you're looking to do more and more video over the wireless, you're going to need something that's high quality there. Okay. Digital cameras, we've got a variety there. And if you have any questions, I would highly recommend Jim again there. Jim has a lot of knowledge there and can steer you in the right direction. But there's a lot of cameras. I know some of the camera usage has gone down because people tend to use their smartphone more. And smartphones are great when you don't have some of these other options. But if you have a better camera, be it a high-end camera or even a simple point and shoot, most of the simple point and shoots will produce a better picture than what your camera phone will do. But camera phones are great, don't get me wrong, they're great when you don't have other options there. And this, the second question was the megapixels in the camera there. And megapixels, as we talked about, it can be deceiving because just because it has a higher megapixel does not equate to better quality. And you can go and look at that past presentation that talks about that. And all cameras are not equal. It's a combination of the lens, the quality of the lens. Well, you know, on your smartphone, when you've got a lens that is, this big, it does a very good job for what it is. It has its limitations, though. And the flash and everything else, the sensors collecting the light coming in and converting that to the digital image, it's doing a good job, but I wouldn't call it a great job by any means there. And any of these other cheaper cameras is going to do a better job than a smartphone or that. Okay. 57% of us play music on our computer, tablet, or smartphone. I expected that to be a little higher, but that's the way it is, I guess. Visits to the PC Club website. You can see here we ask, did you visit 1 to 2, etc. on up there, and nice to see that most of the people are visiting. They average 6 visits per person. And if anyone has any ideas for other things that should be on the website or any other links or things like that, feel free to contact myself or any of the board members, and we can stick stuff up there. And we asked how many meetings do you attend, and again, we averaged for the responses 4.2 meetings, which is good. This year we had 18% of the members who did not attend any meeting that responded. This compares with some of the past. We've kind of gone, stayed around between 10 and 20% most of the years with members and attendance there. And again, if you have ideas on things that you'd like to see or that, let us know. We do record it and make that available when possible out on the website. And we asked the question if people have viewed that or looked at slides, the handouts or the slides, and 75% of the members had gone out to the site to look at stuff. So people are utilizing it and that, which is good. MaxSig, we asked how many people attended the meetings, and this is the response there. I think currently we have about 40 people signed up for the MaxSig, which is a good number there. And you can check out the website for their dates. Unfortunately, I can't get Mike Griffin to publish an agenda ahead of time or put handouts or slides or anything out on the website. So if you are a member of the MaxSig, you may want to encourage Mike to make some of that available, because not everybody can attend the meetings, and they do have some good topics, some good presentations, people talking about new technology, things like that. So if you see Mike or are a member of the MaxSig, encourage Mike to kind of share some of that with the rest of the club there. Okay. Our next question had to do with where people buy their computer equipment, and this is both online and in stores. And you can see the various responses here. We start out with 71% of the people have bought some of their stuff at Best Buy, and then Amazon came in second. So certainly if you're buying anything, check around because you will see wide variations in prices. So if it's a cable or if it's a printer ink or just about anything, I highly recommend check around, and you will see a wide variety of prices out there in the market. Next question had to do with some of the computer help services out there, and this doesn't show up too well here. But we ask for some of the various services, how would you rate them on a scale of they were the worst, they were bad, they were okay, they were good, and they were the best. And so you can use this information. I think this is the first year that we've never had any of these rated worst or bad, which is a good sign that people at least felt that they're getting good service when they did use it. So give you an idea there. If you have a local place in your neighborhood, sometimes it's best to go there, because frequently most of the places nowadays will give you a free estimate. If you do need work done on your PC, you can take it in and they'll give you an estimate, and then you can decide, is it something you want to, is the cost that they're going to charge, is it worthwhile going forward, or should you just buy a new machine? Because those are some of your options, certainly, that you have now. Geek Squad, I mentioned, is very good. They're also probably the most expensive. So, again, if you're having a problem with your hard drive or something like that, I've known people that have taken it in and ended up spending $250 or $300, and they could have bought a brand new machine. It would have been faster, better, new operating, So compare what you really need and that. But if they're going to give you a free estimate, certainly get an estimate and see what it is and see if it's worthwhile fixing or not. Okay. Next question we asked was internet browser most used, and Chrome came out on top with 31%. Internet Explorer was second with 29%. Firefox with 20%. Safari, which is the mainly Apple browser, at 14%. And most people are using multiple browsers. Myself, I have Chrome, Firefox, and IE. And actually, because I have Windows 10, I have Chrome, Firefox, IE, and Microsoft's new browser in Windows 10 is the Edge. So you're usually using multiple. Some work better than others for certain things, and usually you can't just use one. But for the most part, I use Chrome. I use Chrome on my tablet. I have an iPad tablet. I have my Android phone, and I have my desktop. And it shares the favorites. It shares things that if I start a search on my desktop for a restaurant or that, I go to my phone and I can get my directions. It already knows that I was looking for that, and that's what I was doing. So it shares the information between the devices there. Okay. Then we asked if people had any particular smartphone or tablet applications, and there's a few listed here. You can take a look. Elements, Sky Safari for night maps, Radar US, Snore Labs, periodic tables, so you have that. Then the next topic, or the next question, was for topics that you'd like to see at meetings. And so we just had you check, and you could check any number of them. And these are the raw results of what the people responded to there. And we use this information at the board meetings to go through and pick out future topics. So we'll try and certainly hit the highest scoring ones, and then we'll occasionally jump to some of these down here that we haven't covered in the last few years. So if it's been 4 or 5 years since we've covered it and there's new things out there, we'll look to possibly add that. But we use this information to help us plan the meetings and future topics there. But some people ask us, well, why don't you get into some of these other things? And we kind of say, well, they either have scored really low or we've tried them in the past and there hasn't been that good of attendance. So that's the reason why we don't get into some of these topics. But keep asking us which topics you're interested in and telling us. And when we have our board meetings and talk about future topics, we get into a little bit of everything. And we did have a number of suggestions people put in, and we also do look at this at the board meetings to pull out new topics. So you can look at this at your leisure of some of the topics that were suggested. Also, in some cases, I did put a response in here because some of them weren't necessarily topics. They were just asking some questions. So I put in some questions or some responses to the questions that were put in the survey here. And you can take a look at that stuff and see what's going on. And then we asked if there was other questions for the board, and there was a number of thank yous, which we always appreciate, and it's a team effort by everybody there. And and here I just mentioned generally that for your $8 dues, you're getting quite a bit for the money there. We do have our pizza lunch, and in April or May we'll have our sandwich lunch again, and then we have our meetings and our apple sig. So we certainly feel on the board that this is you're getting well worth your money's worth there. Okay, any questions or any areas that we didn't cover that people have a question or a comment on? We've got an interesting group, and certainly PCs, like I mentioned, over the 14 years that we've done the survey, it's been surprising how much has changed over the years, and certainly tablets and smartphones are part of that revolution, but devices keep getting cheaper and more powerful and wireless and more devices, smart devices in the home and in the cars, and we start getting them almost everywhere there. So to me, it's an exciting area there. Yes, Jim.
You and I have been emailing back and forth on stuff briefly. Google Casa.
Yeah, we can. For those that aren't familiar, what was it? Monday or Sunday? Sunday or Monday, Google came out and said that they will no longer be updating Google Picasa. They're focusing their efforts on Google Photos, which is their online application and photo storage, and that there will be no more updates to Picasa there. And so Jim and I have had a couple of emails there where we'll take a look, and I don't know, maybe we can convince Jim to talk about photo packages or options. We'll see. But we'll come up with something, and it doesn't. It doesn't mean the Picasa stops working. So you can continue to use Picasa. It's just that 2 years from now, you shouldn't be using Picasa. By then, you should have found a replacement, or if a package like Google Photos up on the cloud works for you, great. Personally, myself, I'm going to need a local storage package editor option there. I do store my stuff up on Picasa, but I do want something locally to tag them and organize them and do things. So I'll be looking around for an option there. But again, it's not like you have to immediately quit using Picasa. Just long term, it's not going to be viable there, and there won't be any new updates or anything to it.
What are the
Well, that's where I'm a person who always kind of goes through the features and functions, and a lot of the features and functions that I personally use myself, I know that other people don't use. I went through and I face tagged everything, and I used tags, and I'd categorize it. This is Christmas, this is birthdays, names. I'd organize it, and I'd change the date and time stamps in there so that stuff would sort in the correct order, or if the camera that I got it from didn't have the right date and time, I'd be changing things. So the things that I'm doing to photos is different than what a lot of people are doing. And I think in general, what Google came up with is a lot of people aren't using the more advanced things, and can get by with some of this other stuff, whether it's the online version, of Google Photos, now Photoshop. There's Photoshop options out there. There's Microsoft has its photo. And Jim doesn't like it, and I'm not a fan of that either. But there's literally hundreds of other options out there that will do certain features and functions. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know of anything that does as much as what Picasa did. Because I'd use it to geotag my photos. I'd use it to, do all kinds of stuff.
You always know the Photoshop combination. By far, the best anything cataloging all stuff goes way beyond what most people. They are the best. Yes and no. They have a fairly simple interface, but it takes a little bit. But there are other packages out there that range from free ones to Photoshop Lightroom, which is $9.99 a month, tax, both of them. So there's all kinds of options. So if you've got questions, contact me. I can there's ACTC 1991, Corel Photo, Jim. The list goes on and on.
And we'll try and convince Jim to present, because Jim has presented in the past on these subjects, and like I say, he is an expert in these areas. So we'll try and get him up here to talk more about some of these options. Any other questions? Otherwise, thanks for coming. And again, the next one is Monday, March 21st. So make sure that you don't try and come on Wednesday. We won't be here. Okay, thank you.